Discover the rarest and most valuable American coins ever minted, hidden treasures worth millions. From historical rarities to legendary misprints, we unveil the fascinating stories behind these numismatic gems. Whether you're a collector or just curious, this journey through coin history reveals the extraordinary value hidden in small pieces of metal. Top 4 in the vast history of American coinage, the 5-cent piece, often overlooked, holds some remarkable surprises. Especially the 1964 nickel, a year that marks both the end of an era and the beginning of a legend. The year 1964 was pivotal for the U.S. Mint. Coin shortages and public hoarding had created a financial bottleneck, forcing changes that led to mass production. Over 2.8 billion nickels were struck that year, but hidden among them are coins of extraordinary value. At first glance, a 1964 nickel appears ordinary. It's made of 75% copper and 25% nickel, weighs 5 grams, and features Thomas Jefferson on the obverse. But for collectors, small details make all the difference. What separates the rare from the routine is often invisible to the casual eye. Minting anomalies, die varieties, and unique compositions are the gateways to staggering value. In 1964, some of those variations slipped into circulation unnoticed. One such variety involves the Jefferson nickel struck with proof dies by mistake at a regular production facility. These are sometimes referred to as SMS nickels, special mint strikes. But 1964 officially had no SMS sets. This alone makes these coins a numismatic mystery. These SMS nickels exhibit a satiny finish and exceptional strike. They lack the mirror-like surface of traditional proof coins but possess remarkable sharpness and clarity. Collectors cherish them for their beauty and mystery. Another clue lies in the steps of Monticello. The more steps visible on the reverse side of the coin, the sharper the strike. A full steps 1964 nickel can be worth hundreds, even thousands, depending on condition and die quality. Most 1964 nickels are struck at either Philadelphia or Denver. But what makes some valuable isn't just where they were minted, it's how. Some planchets were struck more than once, or misaligned slightly, or hit with overused dies, creating faint doubling or ghost images. The rarest examples are those with strong doubling, on Jefferson's eye, his lips, or the word liberty. These double die varieties are few and far between, and they command serious attention in auctions, yet the most elusive and valuable 1964 nickel remains the mysterious SMS coin, known only from a small handful of surviving examples. These aren't just rare, they are essentially prototypes. These prototype-like coins were likely part of experimental runs or testing phases for the following year's production. Why they were struck, how many exist, and how they escaped official destruction remains a mystery to this day. The design itself did not change in 1964, but the techniques and intent behind these experimental strikes set them apart. These are the coins that bridge the gap between the standard minting process and something closer to artistry. Each surviving SMS nickel from 1964 reveals subtle hallmarks, clean edges, sharp devices, smooth fields. The surface gleams without being mirrored, and details appear far more pronounced than on any regular strike. They were not included in official mint sets. They were never meant to circulate. And yet, a few found their way into the hands of collectors, and later, to the most prestigious coin auctions in the world. The coins were first identified decades later, when expert collectors noticed their unique finish and strike. The intrigue only grew as researchers failed to trace them to any official release records. Today, only a handful are known, fewer than a dozen have been authenticated. That's why their market value has soared. In one legendary auction, a 1964 SMS Jefferson nickel sold for an astonishing $1.22 million. That single coin, no heavier than a paperclip, is now among the most valuable nickels ever sold. The staggering price reflects more than rarity, it reflects mystery, quality, and historical significance. Each coin holds a question: why was it made, and who let it go? Such coins are time capsules. They connect us to decisions, accidents, and experiments made behind closed doors at the U.S. Mint over 60 years. To hold one is to hold a secret in metal form, something almost no one was ever meant to see, much less possess. And that makes them priceless, in every sense of the word. So next time you see a 1964 nickel, take a closer look. It might just be one of the rarest treasures in American numismatic history, hiding in plain sight. Top 3 in the world of American coins, the 5-cent piece often goes unnoticed. Yet occasionally, a year and a coin come together to create something truly extraordinary. The 1986 nickel is one of those hidden marvels. While billions of nickels have passed through countless hands since their first minting, only a few have become the subject of intrigue and mystery. Among them, the 1986 issue holds a rare and special place. The 1986 Jefferson nickel was never thought to be anything more than a standard circulation coin. It was struck at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, bearing the familiar profile of Thomas Jefferson and his Monticello home on the reverse, but sometimes history leaves behind more than it intended. What sets a handful of these coins apart are strange, minute, almost imperceptible anomalies that push them from pocket change into the realm of prized collectibles. These anomalies go beyond simple errors. They include double dies, unusual planchets, and trial strikes. And one extremely rare example appears to have never been intended for public release at all. In numismatics, the difference between ordinary and legendary often lies in the smallest of details: a slight doubling on the lettering, an abnormal luster, or a surface that defies the norms of its year. The 1986 nickel, in its rarest form, challenges every assumption. Some believe that a limited number of nickels struck in 1986 were part of an experimental run, possibly created to test a new striking method or planchet alloy. These coins look subtly but unmistakably different from standard issues. Instead of the usual satin or matte finish, these rare 1986 nickels show a deep, glossy texture with unusually sharp features. The steps of Monticello are full and distinct. The rim is clean and defined. And the devices, the raised elements of the design, stand out crisply. One theory suggests that a small batch may have been struck at the San Francisco Mint, despite no official records of such production. These pieces could have been test coins, never meant for distribution, but a few somehow escaped into the hands of collectors. Experts began noticing unusual 1986 nickels surfacing in private collections and auctions. They were struck more precisely than regular issues and showed characteristics that did not match the known minting processes for that year. Even the composition of some of these coins has been questioned. A few are believed to have been struck on planchets intended for foreign coins or for experimental purposes, giving them a different weight and tone. Authentication of these nickels requires careful examination under magnification, combined with metallurgical testing. Their rarity is amplified by the fact that almost no official documentation supports their origin, making them even more compelling to serious collectors. The story grows even more fascinating when considering how few of these coins have been found. To date, only a handful of known examples exist, and each has drawn intense interest at auction.as. Coin experts continued their analysis. The unique qualities of these nickels became impossible to ignore. The strike quality, surface brilliance, and overall appearance made them stand out even among high-grade coins. Collectors know that rarity alone doesn't determine value. Condition, origin, and historical context all contribute. And in this case, every element combines to create something truly exceptional. In recent years, one of these ultra-rare 1986 nickels made headlines in the numismatic community. At a major auction, it sold for a breathtaking $1.30 million, forever sealing its place in coin collecting history. That extraordinary value wasn't just about metal, it represented mystery, craftsmanship, and the unexpected survival of something never meant to be seen. A forgotten whisper from the mint that turned into a roar decades later. The price shocked many, but for seasoned collectors, it confirmed what they had long suspected: these coins are not just rare, they are once-in-a-generation discoveries. With so few known to exist, the chances of finding another are slim. But that slim chance keeps the excitement alive for collectors, treasure hunters, and dreamers alike. It reminds us that in every handful of change, there could be a miracle. That a coin dismissed for decades could hold the key to a story lost in time and now worth more than most homes. So next time you come across a 1986 nickel, pause before you pass it along. You might just be holding a secret, a treasure, and $1 million mystery, all in the palm of your hand. Top 2 in the world of American coinage. The 5-cent piece is often seen as humble, practical, and easy to overlook. But every so often, a single year stands out, not for what was widely produced, but for what was quietly exceptional. The year 1987 is one such case. The 1987 Jefferson nickel was released into everyday circulation without much fanfare. Billions were struck, just like the years before and after. Yet buried in those numbers are stories that were never meant to unfold in public. The typical 1987 nickel bears the familiar face of Thomas Jefferson and the reverse image of Monticello, his Virginia estate. It was minted at Philadelphia and Denver, with each coin made of copper-nickel alloy and weighing 5 grams, but not all 1987 nickels are created equal. Some carry markers of difference so subtle, even trained eyes might miss them. And in rare cases, these differences speak to a production anomaly that adds layers of value and intrigue. Coin experts began to notice that some 1987 nickels were struck with an unusual sharpness. The details in Jefferson's hair, the clarity of the inscription, and the steps of Monticello stood out in ways not seen in regular business strikes. For years, these coins went unnoticed, slipped into change drawers, passed through vending machines, and buried in coin jars. Only later, through close study, did their rarity begin to surface. One theory among numismatists is that a small group of 1987 nickels were test strikes, possibly part of internal mint trials. Their finish is softer than a proof but far more refined than typical circulation coins, placing them somewhere in between. The mint has no official documentation regarding such a release, but collectors believe these examples may have originated under controlled conditions, perhaps evaluated by mint staff and never intended to circulate. Another layer of interest comes from a few reported examples showing signs of being struck on misaligned or experimental planchets, coins that deviate slightly in weight, texture, or metallic content. There are whispers in the collecting community of coins struck using highly polished dies, possibly in the early moments of production when die quality is at its peak. These coins exhibit mirrored fields, razor-sharp reliefs, and precise edges. As more examples were found and analyzed, a picture began to emerge of a coin unlike its counterparts. Its beauty was not just in appearance but in origin, a mistake, a trial, or a test that became one of the most sought-after discoveries. Few of these coins have ever been certified, and those that have passed the rigorous inspection of professional grading agencies are now considered the elite of the Jefferson series. To a casual collector, they may seem like ordinary nickels. But to those with experience and a trained eye, their brilliance, strike quality, and mystery set them far apart from the billions of others. This coin's rise in notoriety wasn't sudden. It came quietly, through whispers at coin shows, private evaluations, and hushed conversations between seasoned experts. Eventually, one of these rare 1987 nickels surfaced at a major auction. Collectors knew it was different, perfectly preserved, unusually struck, and surrounded by questions no one could fully answer. The bidding was intense, driven by rarity, condition, and the coin's exceptional backstory. When the final hammer fell, the coin had reached a staggering value of $1.28 million. That price wasn't just about what the coin was made of. It represented something far greater: history preserved in metal, mystery never fully solved, and the raw desire to own something almost no one else ever will. The winning bidder walked away with more than a coin. They took home a fragment of mint history, possibly a prototype, possibly a survivor of testing that slipped beyond the mint's walls. For the rest of the collecting world, it was a moment that underscored a truth we often forget, that coins can be more than currency. They can be secrets. They can be treasures. They can be legends. And so the 1987 nickel, once just a small piece of change, now sits at the top of American numismatics, quiet, rare, and worth more than anyone imagined. That if you're ever sorting through old change, don't dismiss the ordinary. Because somewhere, among the billions, might be another story just waiting to be uncovered. Top 1 in the ever-evolving story of American coinage, the smallest denominations often hold the biggest surprises. One such story quietly emerged from the year 2001, where a simple nickel turned out to be anything but ordinary. The 2001 Jefferson nickel was produced in massive numbers, with billions circulating from both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. On the surface, it appeared to be a standard issue, indistinguishable from any other, but history has a way of hiding its most valuable secrets in plain sight. Beneath the copper-nickel surface of a few select coins lies an exceptional and puzzling tale that has captured the fascination of experts and collectors alike. Most nickels from 2001 follow the familiar format: Thomas Jefferson on the front, Monticello on the back, with clean, rounded lettering and average strike detail. But a few coins defy this norm completely. Over time, quiet murmurs began to spread in the numismatic community. A small number of 2001 nickels began showing up with unusual features, cleaner fields, bolder details, and a finish that didn't match typical circulation strikes. Initially, these discoveries were dismissed as random overstrikes or coins in unusually good condition. But as more of these anomalies surfaced and were compared, their significance became undeniable. Some of these nickels appear to have been struck using dies with enhanced precision. The steps of Monticello are unusually sharp. Jefferson's portrait carries depth and refinement rarely seen on standard strikes. There is speculation that these coins were the result of an internal test, possibly an experimental strike ahead of upcoming design changes, or an unintentional early release using proof-like dies during regular production. Their texture is smoother than circulation nickels yet lacks the reflective polish of proofs. Their strike depth, edge clarity, and uniformity suggest a level of quality control inconsistent with mass production. What makes this coin so captivating isn't just its physical characteristics, it's the complete absence of explanation. No official record of such a test or mint error has been released, leaving collectors to piece together the puzzle. One particularly compelling theory is that a few coins were struck on leftover planchets from earlier production runs intended for higher quality proof sets, perhaps mistakenly fed into the wrong presses. Others believe these nickels were produced late in the year using fresh dies that hadn't worn down, giving the coins a near-perfect impression that sets them apart from millions of their peers. Over the years, only a handful of such coins have been discovered and authenticated. Their exceptional surfaces and minute die markers have been verified by top grading agencies. Collectors prize these coins not only for their rarity but for their mysterious origin. They are seen as whispers from within the mint, a brief, unintentional masterpiece released to the public without announcement or intention. The journey from pocket change to auction block has only added to the legend of these coins. Their beauty is undeniable, their scarcity confirmed, and their demand growing. At a high-profile numismatic auction, one of the finest examples of the 2001 rare nickel stunned even seasoned collectors. After a dramatic round of bidding, the coin was sold for an astounding $1.48 million. That sale marked a turning point. No longer was the 2001 nickel viewed as just another coin. It became a symbol of overlooked value and numismatic mystery, a tiny object with a massive legacy. The collector who won the bid described it not just as a coin, but as a story, a bridge between the known and the unknown, between routine minting and a moment of brilliance never meant to be repeated. To this day, the exact circumstances behind the coin's creation remain uncertain. But its impact on the collecting world is unquestioned, and its place in history is firmly secured. So now, when you come across a 2001 nickel, take a second glance. Because hidden among the ordinary might be a once-in-a-lifetime treasure waiting to be recognized, cherished, and remembered forever.